welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about something that I consider to be very unique, and that is that of the near-death experience. I know that many of you who have joined us on the program before have remembered as we talked with Dr. Raymond Moody on what this is and what the afterlife brings us, but this is something that we're going to be crossing the boundaries and coming back to realize that here is someone who's going to be sharing with us not only one but two near-death experiences. It was through this experience where his discovery of being able to become what is known as a DNA reader became a very unique thing that has happened. He's quoted as knowing that when you change your frequency, you change your life. He likes to empower people to connect with these higher energies faster and with more efficiency. We're going to be learning about his story today, and we want you to prepare because you might be discovering something very unique. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our survivor of two near-death experiences, our special guest here on the Beyond 50 radio program, Mr. Mas Sahadi. Mas, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Dan, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Now, two near-death experiences, that's more than most people experience in one lifetime. What went on here?
Yes. Well, Dan, the first near-death happened in my early 20s, and that was a warehouse accident. It was a college job. I used to unload rail cars. My jaws got crushed in that incident. And you know, Dan, in reality, there's about 800 near-death experiences that happen to people in the U.S. alone a day, and these are documented near-death experiences. So it's quite common. But the difference between, say, what's happened to me or and then all the other people is, well, I got a lot of fantastic abilities to help shift people in any way. You know, your health, wealth. Finances, relationships, anything that we call life, I can help you edit and transform much easier, faster for you from what I've found out from, the tens of thousands of people that I work on. So in the first near-death, because I was searching, just like many of your callers here, searching for that real meaning of life, right? That trueness of life, because it's not about the money. I work with a lot of people who have a lot of money and they still feel empty inside, and then about the relationships, people have, say, if I can get that perfect relationship, I'll be set, I'll be happy, and then, well, that relationship breaks apart, right? So what is that component? That component was revealed to me in my first near-death experience. I had my jaws crushed, and as I was floating away, I'm sure you've heard of stories of people, they see their body from a different perspective. Well, that was me. And I didn't know at the time I was actually dead. I'm going, well, what am I doing there if I'm over here? Right? And then that's when I realized I was dead. And you might think, gosh, that's a tragic event. It was the most freeing experience that I ever had. One of the most freeing experiences that I ever had. I realized who we truly are. I realized who the abundance or that emptiness that most everybody feels inside, no matter how much money or how good they are, or, how connected they are spiritually. That innermost feeling that we're looking for, that completeness, rushed into me, and I could see the grandness that we are. So that was the first near-death experience. Well, I could just go into it a little deeper. I transcended beyond that, and then I went into the space where you review your life. Okay, and I'm sure you guys have heard about life reviews. I just want to clarify something, though, guys. The life review is not there to go, you did this good, you did that bad, you should have done this. It's nothing like that at all, guys. You really, you relive your life. Okay? So the concept of time and space really get distorted. But most importantly, you relive your life the way it should have been. You're going through the same experiences, but the meaning you attach to everything that you go through is very, very different. So you walk away from a, say, an awakened or a strong perspective. And that releases any fear, any distortion, anything that we think we weren't. right? Any setbacks. So there's no feelings of I should have done this. Why did I marry this person? Why is life this way? Why did God treat me this way? There's nothing like that. You see the grandness and beauty of physical reality. So that's the takeaway from the first near-death experience. Should we go on to the second one, Dan, or?
Yeah, I wanted to gain some clarity, I think mostly for the listeners,
Okay.
because you're touching on some key things. First of all, when you have a near-death experience, which many of us haven't, but, we're certainly afraid of death, it seems.
Yes.
And ultimately, I remember talking with the hypnotherapist who says, pretty much all fear that we have as people who are alive is the fear of death. And if we can get to a point that we overcome or at least accept that and integrate it, then there isn't too much about life that we're going to be afraid of.
That is
and I
so
thought
true.
to myself, there is a lot of genius in that. And I've got a real quick story, if I may, and that is, back in the 1990s, I seemed to be having a series of dreams where I was having a heart attack. And probably maybe in my outer world there was seemingly a lot going on where there was a lot of anxiety, that sort of thing. And the thing is I've been a lucid dreamer, started becoming a lucid dreamer back when I was around the age of 5, I guess it was. So I knew how to kind of get in there with my dreams and so forth. Now, when this was happening in the dream, it was becoming very frustrating, and so to me, you might consider something like having a heart attack and reaching out, calling for help, to be an issue where, that I just need to confront it, just like a nightmare.
Right.
So that's what I did. So one time when I was having this dream that I was having a heart attack, I said, I've had enough of this. I'm just going to simply die and see what happens. And like what you were saying, all of a sudden the colors got clear, and it was an amazing, freeing experience. And I'm thinking, man, if this is what death is, what the hell am I doing alive?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
and you
why
had
I see
two
death.
near-death physical experiences. This was just a dream, but still, anyway.
Yeah, it is quite amazing, death, and you're right. It really is awakening to a point that death actually becomes an opportunity for us to enlighten even at a higher level, because we can leave the density of the physical form if you're awakened. That's what death is supposed to be. I call it the beautiful grand space that opens. And that also that space that opens. It's not only for that person that's crossing over, but anybody who's awakened around, say, that family member, or that person that's crossing over, and around, physically around, and then also, a heart connection around. They'll get, say, vacuumed up into that death space, and it's like being blessed, because it awakens you to, again, it's like having a near-death awakening for you. And it's quite beautiful. So that's what death is actually really supposed to be designed for. To get into deeper, the Egyptians, the Tibetans, they knew, so they would prepare people for death to be awakened. So as they cross over, again, they get to take advantage of it.
Now, I certainly have people who are lined up here on the program to ask questions, but I want to go a little bit further here now.
Sure.
You had gained not only new insight, which, as I was describing in my brief story, I seem to have, but it went even further for you. Tell us about that.
Sure. So, the second near-death really allowed me to really open up and understand who we are. And by the way, my gifts, although, it sounds really fantastic or unbelievable or even magical, if you go to the website, there's tons of testimonials and, again, magical testimonials, way beyond belief. And that's actually the norm, okay? But I'm not tooting my own horn. Actually, I'm normal, okay? Because I'm I'm what we're all supposed to be. And that's what I bring into, say, this reality. I help you see who you are at a higher level, because I've reached that level. That's all. So we're really all the same. We all have the same opportunity to come into that, say, higher space where abundance comes in naturally for you. Any kind of abundance. We weren't supposed to live in any sort of lack here. That's really a myth. Okay? But all that opened up to me in the second near-death experience. This time it was a drowning. And the difference, again, between me and, the thousands and thousands of other near-deathers is that that tunnel of light, right? You've all heard that tunnel of light that people talk about. Well, I transcended through the tunnel of light. Now, normally you're not supposed to do that. Once you transcend through, you're supposed to, cross over and stay there. I transcended through into that space, and I call it the beautiful blue space. And that beautiful blue space, I'm a computer programmer by trade. I've coined it the universal database. So I can access pretty much anything about anybody at that level. I've managed to pull that access down into physical form, and that's how I say attach or log in, so to speak, and read your DNA. So what I can do is say I can tap into you, Dan, or anybody. I can tap into a loved one through you, and say read their storyline, okay, or read their DNA, and in there, just like your hair color, your eye color, whatever that we see physically, a physical representation of what's happened, of what's in the DNA. There's also what I call spiritual DNA. Spiritual DNA is like how you get abused, how you don't get abused, all the different scenarios of life. Those are all pre-programmed in you. How successful you're going to be, who you're going to marry, what type of person you're going to marry, what your preferences are going to be like, so on and so on and so on. Again, they're all coded. So I can start reading your DNA, and I go, oh, here. This is where you have a pattern of being, say, abused or distorted or not loved or not trusted or, whatever pattern that you might be running. I can go in there and say delete it for you or edit it for you. And then, once you change it at, say, that spiritual DNA level, your life just starts to shift. For a lot of people, almost immediately, they just see something different in themselves. And that's how their experiences change. So.
Do people actually have these experiences pretty consistently, or there's some that experience things where others don't seem to really get anything at all?
Sure. No, I have a high percentage of people, say, experiencing things, over, say, 90%. Almost everybody, say, will experience something with what I do. The real deal, getting deeper into it again, is that statistically, about, say, 30-40% of people will feel it almost like, say, right away, and their lives will switch right away without, say, doing anything else, okay? Whatever it might be. And this is where, again, if you go to the website, you'll hear people like, they'll come into an event with, like, a walker, and they'll walk out totally fine. Okay? Stuff like that does happen. Again, I don't claim I cure you or anything like that. I just awaken you to a higher level where you don't need any sort of lack. Okay? The other 30-40%, they have some sort of level of, say, detox that goes through. And detox is just transformations. The space of transformation, because we're in a time-bound, say, reality, right? So it takes time for us to change, say, the environment that we're in. About the 5% actually, they might not feel anything for a little bit. That's because they run out of fear, or have control issues or be controlled. So it takes a little while for them to, say, see transformations in their life, because they're kind of like wrapped up like this burrito, layer after layer after layer of stuff that binds them, although it does work on them. The level or intensity or how fast they change is how much garbage they've picked up along the way, from this lifetime, the family lineage, spiritual lives before. So the more garbage you have, obviously, the longer it takes to clear out. It's just like a healthy person going to work out for the first time and an unhealthy person going to work out for the first time, right? If you work out, that unhealthy person, they're going to have a lot more pain. They're going to have to change their diet, whatever, to get healthy. Where the healthy person goes, oh, I get it, and they move on faster. So.
Now, when you see this DNA, what does this look like?
Right. So I'm not a clairvoyant, clairaudio, or anything like that. I go beyond that, where I just am. Just the way that, say, your imagery or your representation of yourself comes into your mind, right? I actually see you for who you are. So I can, well, to give you a visual, I can, plug into your hard drive or your memory and see your life exactly the way you see it. So, and that's really a one key point that's that I have. Again, it goes beyond any emotional or physical senses here. I plug into and that's how I can relate to almost everybody because I see their life from their perspective, and I can edit it a lot easier and faster that way as well.
Now, I know that you have a lot of people who may come to you, and I actually went to an event where there was a gentleman from, I believe it was Croatia, who had gained this ability through a gaze to actually heal people.
Sure.
And so we were invited to this event to see what was going to happen here and the like. And so you've seen people, some of them wheeled up in wheelchairs to the front row, and it seemed that the people who were in more severe physical conditions were the ones who were right there, I guess, closest to this. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, this is somebody who pretty much, I guess, goes around the world doing this. And you have to wonder, because humans, at least through our conditioning, are under the belief, and perhaps maybe there is some reality in this, have so much energy before we feel drained. How is that for you when you're at these events and you have people who are lining up and they have questions or things they would like to see change or happen in their lives? That must be something. But most importantly, is this an ability that perhaps all of us have and we just need to learn how to develop it?
Yes. So for the first question, again, my energies don't get drained because the individuals who get drained, and this is just something to watch out for, guys, because even Jesus, and again, I'm not a religious person, but Jesus, a quite beautiful, ascended individual outside of the religion, he said, anybody can heal, but just be careful how they heal you. Make sure that they heal you from the frequencies of, he used God, I use pure source. And when you're healing through what I call pure source, actually I get energized as I work on people. The more people I work on, the more and more energized I get. Actually, I have to go work out or go to a jog or something after I work out. That's how much energy. People who are using their own frequencies or some other source, right, not as pure source, they will get drained out. So that's something to watch out. You always want to obviously go towards people who use pure source. So, and then your other question, the question about can other people train? Yes. In fact, that's why I said earlier, I'm not anybody say special. Well, it seems that way. But again, once we awaken to who we truly are, and that's we actually all have the same abilities. So in the near future, maybe I'd be the norm of society, right? And by the way, that's how society is transforming. Now there was an industrial age, technological age. This is the communication age. Maybe the next age is really about, say, ascending to a level where we are all, say, quite highly intuitive and creators of our own realities, right? So, yes, I can see that. I actually have classes called Healing Mastery that help you, say, understand who truly you are to help you come into your own healing abilities.
Now, I certainly have a lot of listeners lined up here on the program, and from some of these questions, I kind of wonder how familiar they are with your work, as it seems they must be.
Right.
In this particular case here, I'm going to go ahead and read one of these, and it says,
Sure.
Can you please help my nephew? He has brain damage. Now, when I see a comment like that or a question, certainly these must be sincere and in earnest, but you have to wonder sometimes if people, as you had mentioned earlier in the program, you don't claim to heal anything, but, certainly these things occur. How do you take a look at something like that and try to get people to at least clearly see, hey, look, this isn't what I'm claiming. We hope something great happens here, but, how
Right.
do you address something like that?
Yeah. So again, guys, like Daniel said, I'm not a doctor. I don't cure you. However, I've helped awaken a lot of people's innate healing abilities because that's what I do. And anything can happen. There have been people who relieve themselves of tumors or cancers or heart issues or financial distress, whatever. So I'm not going to be the one that goes, hey, this is going to work on you. This isn't. But again, we can see what happens. In the case of your nephew, there's a lot of, say, torment in the family overall, from what I'm seeing. I see a lot of neck damage. I don't know how old your nephew is. He seems like younger, but there's a lot of neck damage that might have happened during birth, from what I'm seeing. Let's just put it this way. If he has a pattern of getting, say, severed in the neck, okay, from what I'm seeing, even during the birthing process, he would tend to have it, say, damaged his neck. And then also, I think as he got a little older, he might have had an accident where, again, something happened to his neck where it was damaged. So he has that pattern, again, of having something happen to his neck. So I can help, say, remove that, and we'll see what happens from there. Anyway.
Now, as you've been, I guess, for lack of a better way to put this, working with people across the world, what has been some of the most unique experiences that you've encountered as you've been able to do this?
Sure. As far as, like, people transforming, is that what you're asking, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Again, this one woman, she came into a San Francisco event, and she was really, really mad. She came into the event, and she said, "Well, what are you going to do that I haven't done? Because I've been like this for 20 years." She came in with her walker. She couldn't walk. She had some kind of accident or something happened to her about 20 years ago. She goes, "I've done everything." She's really mad. What are you going to do that I haven't tried? And, I was just talking to her, and I was telling her, the patterns of her mother, the female lineage, and so on, all the ashrams and all that stuff that she's gone to that really distort her because, those ashrams are, and again, I'm not knocking them down. Depends on how pure they are, but obviously not a pure one for her. So I was just talking to her, and by the end of the talk, by the end of the event, I asked her, "Well, how do you feel?" And she walked for the first time, and just carried her walker away. She followed me to the next city. And I worked on her again. That time she had just a cane, and then she came out and did a hike with us. About 3 months later, up in Sedona with us, and she was just crying. It's like, this is the first time that I've gotten my life back. I went dancing last night. It was just quite amazing. So, but again, there's stories like that all the time. People who remove themselves of addictions. There's tons of those, stories. I can go on and on and on, but or people that reclaim their life back. There's just something that's just missing. There's a lot of like suicidal type individuals, and they've always are on that precipice, right, of not wanting to be here, being disconnected. By the way, I'm just seeing a lot of people. I can work on you as we speak, so if you're feeling a little different just listening to this, just know that I'm working on you, okay?
So you got that, listeners out there? I'm the radio host, and I'm being worked on,
Yeah.
Things are feeling better already. I was going to go ahead, and I'm going to do something here.
Sure.
We have a guest on the line here. Vanessa is joining us here on the program, on the Beyond 50 radio program. Vanessa, do you have a question or a comment for our guest, Mas, here today? Vanessa, are you on the line?
Hello?
Yes, Vanessa?
Hi, are you listening?
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Mas.
Do you have a question for me, or
Well,
have you worked with me before, or?
I've been listening to your 21 days, and
Oh, awesome. Okay.
yeah,
How's that going for you?
I think it's going well. I can feel every time different. I feel
Yeah.
more stable.
Sure, especially in the upper chest area. You know what I mean? There's a opening or expansion from when I'm scanning you, if that makes sense to you. Like a higher awareness of your real self coming out. It just seems like you've always been burdened, by the family structure. Like your family just seems to be like, you have to be a certain way and you can't be any other way. So it kind of suppresses you. Now you're finding, say, that you don't have to be that way. You can move out of those family patterns, and that's why I see that expansion in your in the chest area where, well, you get to be you for the first time. Does that make sense? And live life the way you want it to be, rather than just another cookie cutter approach of your family. Because, well, the way I see your family, you all turn out to be pretty much similar in life experiences. The way your marriage or relationships end up, the way your finances end up. Again, it's almost a cookie cutter approach. The way your family runs life. So the 21 days and what I'm doing here for you will help remove that, so you can actually define your own life. Does that make sense for you, Vanessa?
She's no longer here on the line. I'm certainly, she caught that. But Maj, you bring up something that I think a lot of the listeners, and we've covered this on our program many times over the years. You talk about a cookie-cutter approach to life, that there is a way that we feel we need to be. I mean, it's this way with our family. If we decide to go outside of that and pursue our own dreams, our own way of life, either we're going to get disapproval or we make the decision, well, I'll just be a black sheep, but this is what I really want to be. I want to be authentically me. The largest searches on search engines, and this includes YouTube, are people who are looking for how to do things. We get so caught up, for instance, and I've certainly brought this up on the program many times, as we go through school, our education system, we're constantly punished for making mistakes, and then all of a sudden now as you get older, you need to get out there and make those mistakes because that's how you learn. Certainly a job. We have a job that tells us there's a particular way we need to behave as we're performing well. We get afraid to ask for that raise as we're doing what we believe to be the best that we can do in this particular situation, even though maybe you're not feeling much growth. There seems to be a lot of ways that society, that's advertising, I can go on and on, that tell us and can try to condition us to tell us this is how we should be acting, how we should be feeling, and what we should be doing. And yet we find tears in our eyes when we catch that movie, for instance, where somebody beats all the odds and does things on our own. And the biggest thing that I'm hearing from you is that you really seem to help people come to a place to clear that all the way, much like the guest you just had on the program here. Your family's kind of getting in the way here. Why don't you? They're going to love you anyway. Clear all that and just start taking your time. Grab a hold and move in your own direction.
Right. So once she breaks free, by the way, and this happens to a lot of families, once she breaks free, although, it's like, oh, you'll never do anything, you'll never amount to anything, whatever. Once she breaks free and then all the other family members see that she's broken free, and it's like, oh my God, somebody finally broke free and now we can all break free. So you're not just doing it for you, but a lot of times you do it for the rest of your family because they don't want to be in that same space. They just didn't know how to get out of it. What you talk about, the physical reality of, your job expecting you this way, your family expecting you this way. Again, in your DNA level, all those programs expect you to be a certain way. And that's why it's so hard. Although you might see the opportunities out there, why can't you reach them, right? You know that you could be better, or that there's something more out there, but why can't you reach them? Why can't you get, say, a better relationship and so on? Again, it's really those DNA programming that's happening to you that's just binding you. If you release that, your whole world changes.
Now, you bring up another interesting point for people to come to understand. We had talked on the program about what is known as the family constellation. So taking a look at that, you realize that, well, you may be in this life and things could have been pretty good for you, but you're finding boundaries or things
Yep.
that are kind of holding you back, and you just can't seem to put your finger on it.
Right.
And in the family constellation, the idea is to look at the whole constellation and realize, well, was there a point perhaps in your ancestry, if you will, that this began?
Right. Exactly. The sins of the father, as they call it in religion, right? That's what they're talking about. Yes. So I can, again, I can quickly say scan you, and some people go, well, this is a real story. It's like, Moss, I can't seem to make money. If I do make money, I lose it all. Within a short time, it's like boom, boom, boom. I can go back. It's like, oh, it seems like your grandfather, something happened to your grandfather about, wrapped around money, and that lineage has come on to you. And that's why you can't make money. You remove that, or I help them remove it within a very short time. They can actually hold on to the money that they were making. So it's really that simple, guys. It's programming, guys. It's not about you being good or bad or anything like that, or being in sin like a lot of us think we are. It's not about that at all.
And now I have another guest that I'll go ahead and bring on the program from Southern California. Southern California, you're on the line. Do you have a question or comment for Moss?
Hi, yes, please. My 2-year-old nephew just went into the ER today. He's almost 2. They're not sure what's going on with him, but his grandpa, my stepdad, is a known energy sucker. So I was just hoping that my nephew could be okay, and then his newborn baby brother protected too.
Sure. Again, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but it just seems like the mother. Are they brothers or? The nephew and this newborn baby?
Yes, they're brothers.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So the mother just doesn't seem to be, say, eating properly. She needs to eat properly. Again, she's eating a lot of, say, sugars, carbs, so on like that. A lot of processed foods. So the mother really needs to clean up her diet in order for those kids to come into a healthy state. As far as an energy sucker, sure, I can see that. But again, the real cause is, well, food issues for the mother, not quite there. Was the mother, well, was she alcohol? Yeah. Did she drink alcohol, or is she an alcohol drinker or smoker and stuff like that?
No.
Does that run in the family?
No.
It seems to run in the family, though, or those patterns seems to run in that family.
Food addiction.
Okay, food addictions. There you go. There's probably other types of addictions that run in the family. So if you look up, and maybe that's where the grandfather comes in. He might have, say, those type of alcoholic type tendencies and so on. I see a lot of addictions, whether it's food, whether it's alcoholism, cigarettes, all that stuff again. Although you guys might say cleared up at a physical level, say this generation, like the mother does not do cigarettes and alcohol, but it's transformed into a food addiction. So she eats a lot of sugars and so on. Does that make sense?
What about the 2-year-old in the hospital right now? He went in today.
Right. So coming back to the 2-year-old, and again, just working on him, he really needs good foods. Otherwise, his brain centers won't develop right. The nervous system won't develop right, and I see him as his nerves kind of like shutting down. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you what I see, caused by what happens to him is that the sugars act like acetone, like fingernail polish remover, and the sheathing around his nerves start to melt away right at the top of his neck, so to speak, and then it gets short-circuited, and that's why he has the issues that he has. So he has a chance to turn it around by totally transforming his diet into like a fat diet with a lot of cholesterol. Again, I'm not a doctor. You do your own research on that. Cholesterol is a building block for nerves, organs, all that. So he really needs to change.
Thank you so much.
Does this help you at all?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for being on the program today. We're going to go ahead and go to North and West Colorado. North and West Colorado, you're on the line. Beyond 50 radio program. Thank you for joining us. Are you out there? Well, apparently they got stuck somewhere in the Rockies. So now you were talking, it seems that one of the clarities you have here, apparently maybe working with a lot of people, is you're finding that our diet this day and age seems to be one of those things that tangle up a lot of the sort of health conditions that a lot of people are experiencing.
Oh, definitely. Especially, Daniel, young kids, the epidemic with ADD, ADHD, they're not getting the nutrition, whether it's through doctors telling him or we're just like ill knowledge, right? Distorted knowledge from what we think. Like we tend to move away from fats and just eat, we tend to move away from fats and then eat carbs or fruits. Fruits in the U.S. today are just mainly the derived sugars, processed sugars, because they make the fruit prettier, sweeter, and so on. And again, it's a product that's not beneficial for you. It's really distorting. Your body can't even absorb some of the sugar, so it doesn't know what to do with it. And this is where diabetes and what I was talking about, the nerve disorders and so on of that young child start to happen because we're not getting the building blocks of cholesterol and fat. But, if you're eating that, and there's a lot of research coming out, guys, it's just not me seeing it. If you're eating a lot of fats, like coconut oil would be good for that last caller, to build animal fats and so on. You have to move away from the carbs and the sugars.
Especially the processed foods, definitely.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So.
Yeah. Now, bringing guest number 3 here on the program. Welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program. Any guests or any comments or questions? Sometimes these listeners just don't know whether they're on or not, so maybe they're not on the line here. Now, here's one I'd like to also talk about, too. Now, you were talking about ADD, ADHD. Now, I've also had my own little theory about that, and that is that we live in a very noisy world. And this certainly goes back decades when you look at billboards, for instance, and the moving society with cars and the like, and televisions coming on, and radios and advertising and commercials and movies and everything promising everything quick and easy. Yeah, I kind of wonder sometimes whether or not these particular conditions that we're talking about, ADD, ADHD, might not be a result of a coping mechanism that we're having where we're shutting that down to a degree that we don't get distracted by that, even though it seems we're distracted. We're sitting in a classroom, for instance, you hear this, and the child's mind is wandering off. Well, here's an opportunity for that to happen because it's going to step outside that classroom door and get bombarded by noise. What are your thoughts, your observations on something like that?
Sure. I mean, I can see where that could happen. I see ADD, ADHD in situations like that where the people or the child starts to doze off or, fade away or something like that. They literally, what I see is that, their spirit literally disconnects from their body. So I see it as a time-space distortion. We're here like in the fourth dimension. I don't want to get too scientific about it because what I do is really based on science. So we're here, three-dimensional world. The fourth dimension, as astrophysics calls it, it tells you exactly, say, the coordinates that you're supposed to be in, so you can see this reality the way it should be. Right, that's that fourth dimension of space-time. So a lot of those kids with those issues, they're not in time. So their body might be in one coordinate, their spirit might be in another reality around them, or in a position below. Before time, a few seconds before time, or a few seconds after time. So again, they quite don't know where their body is, and then they get to be spaced out, so to speak. I've helped a lot of kids actually come back into their body. And then, which is really cool, Daniel, is that say I bring them back into their body, they know exactly where they are. They will not be attracted to the foods that distort them even more. They'll naturally gravitate to the healthier foods. If they're of age, they'll tell their mom, I don't like this food anymore. I want whatever that's beneficial for them. So it's from the inside out. Anything I do, I'll do from the inside out. It's not a willpower issue for you.
So we'll go ahead and try one more caller here and see if they're on the line. Guest 4, you're on the Beyond 50 radio program today. Do you have any questions or comments for Mas? Guest, are you there?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Wow. Looks like they're striking out. That's too bad.
Well, at least we got a few of them in there.
Yeah.
Here's another one, too, and you're seeing this, to me, become an epidemic. Technology has certainly taken over our world. It gets to the point now you think people are born with cell phones attached to their hands. How is technology playing a role on our health and I guess, quality of life? What do you think?
Sure. As far as like cell phone radiation and things like that, that's another story. So, watch out for that, obviously. But the other thing about cell phones, again, technology is a fantastic tool. It's an unbelievable tool. But, we get too bound into it.
Right, it's a great tool, but it's not being used effectively. I think it's kind of being used for distraction because you find people, I'd rather make friends and connections on Facebook, for instance, than face-to-face. Well, the key word in Facebook is face.
Face, exactly. But what happens, again, it gets you a time, it distorts time for you. Because, when people are on the phone, especially young kids, they get distorted. If you see young kids on a phone, you can see that, well, at least I can, you can see that they're not completely there. They're out somewhere else. Again, that's the disconnect. So if you're going to use technology, right, act accordingly and anchor yourself down. So be aware of your physical body as you use your phone. You would not believe actually how intriguing that phone becomes. It's quite amazing. And by intriguing, I mean you'll actually enjoy the time you're on the phone. Okay? You're not going to get drained out. You're not going to get sucked out of time. You're not going to get distorted. You're not going to get, say, hurried or anxious or anything like that. So when you're texting, be aware of your hands. Be aware of how you hold your phone as you're staring at it, hour after hour, or even the computer. Right? We get sucked into the computer. If you stay within your body and realize that I'm here looking at the computer, you'll actually stay energized throughout your workday rather than getting distorted and, a lot of tension in the neck area muscles. You'll actually feel rejuvenated.
Now, I am curious. I'm not certain that we had this question answered here, but when you had this near-death experience, you had drowned for, as I understand, close to 10 minutes. What was that particular experience like for you? Yeah,
that one. So I got. We were in Belize. It was a cruise excursion. It was this fast-flowing river. And for some reason, I got disconnected from the group. The guide said, stay together, interlock feet, and then, you'll be safe. If you don't, you'll get sucked into what they call a hole in the river that feeds underground waterfalls and caves. Well, for some reason, I had to unlock my feet, and within a minute, I got sucked into this hole that fed the underground caves. And it was just like a manhole size, probably a lava tube that's filled with water now. So I got sucked right out of my inner tube into the tunnel. And I was trying to crawl out, but the water pressure was so great, I couldn't, and then I submitted my will, so to speak, and I started to see my body float away. And then I ascended through the rock. I could actually feel going through the rock, through the coolness of the water, into that beautiful blue space that I talked about earlier. And at that level that you're at, guys, right, you go way beyond anything here, the amount of joy that you feel at that level, multiply any level of joy that you've had here, multiplied by about 1 million times, and that's the level of joy that you are. We just can't even comprehend that level. There's no need for anything because you are everything. You don't need security. You don't need loved ones. You obviously don't need, say, money or anything like that. Again, because you are all that you are, all that there is, and you're just there. There's no time or space there. It doesn't seem like it's not like boring. It's just like you're so amazed at the beauty and grace that's you and part of you, that you're just there in bliss. It's like a bliss state. So,
wow.
So that's that experience, guys.
Now, how about people who have passed? Did you have time to see, meet, or experience any of those?
People who passed, although no, there's different levels of say transition, right? The first layer, as we talk about, the first layer is the layer of meeting your loved ones that have passed, but welcoming you in, and then guiding you into, say, that tunnel, so to speak, of light. And then there's that layer of reviewing your life. There's other layers. Anyway, each layer, there's about 13 of them that you go through. And as you ascend through, say, the 13th one, that's where you exit, and then you go into that heavenly space. Okay? Mind you, guys, I call it the heavenly space. The hell space is really not there as you go through the tunnel. The hell space, or again in religions, purgatory, is people who die, and this happens quite a bit. People who die, they don't know exactly where they're going, or they're too afraid to go into that heaven space because of religion. You're born in sin, you live in sin. You don't want to go meet your maker because you'd be going to hell, right? In their theory, so they tend to hang out in the lower realms, and that's literally what I would consider the hell space. So.
Now, one thing that's pretty encouraging, Mas, about what you just said is the fact that we've had quite a few people on our program over the years say that very same thing, that, hell really doesn't exist.
You're right. Right. It really doesn't exist, but if you believe that, if you truly, truly, truly believe that you are going to hell, the Creator loves you so much that, it'll let you create anything that you need to or want to, including a hell for you. So.
Yeah, I think there was a movie that's came out around 1990, 91. It was called Defending Your Life, starring Albert Brooks. And so this is a movie where he dies in his mid or late 40s, and he goes up to a place called Judgment City, in which he reviews, in this particular instance, 9 days of his life to find out whether he was ready to move on into the universe, or whether he needed to go back to Earth and actually learn some more life lessons before he was ready. And so he asked the question to the person who was letting him know what Judgment City was all about. He says, well, if there's a heaven, is there a hell? He says, no, there's not really a hell, but I understand Los Angeles is pretty close. It's certainly been a delight to have you here on the program, and I want to thank the guests who we've been able to have on the program to come on and actually share their questions, concerns, or comments with you. And for our listeners out there, is there a website people can find out more about your work and where you're going to be, things like that?
Yes. The website is Massajady, MASSAJADY.com. You can listen to the podcast. They're free for you. If you look up Exponential Intelligence, or, again, my name, Massajady, on a podcast player. It's actually one of the number one podcasts in iTunes, and it has been for about a year now. Plus, we're doing an event in Portland coming up in July, 50 Shades of Great Love, of Great Relationships. And we're going to get into, say, the logistics of love, finding, what makes, pulling you out of, say, all the distortions in relationships or definitions that you've had of relationships, and bringing you into, say, that twin flame type category, so you can actually attract an individual, or turn the relationship, if it's possible, into, say, a higher grade love relationship for you. So that's going to be in Portland again in July. The details are on the website, mossajati.com.
Well, it certainly sounds encouraging, and from what I'm gathering from what you've said here today, for all of our guests out there, it's all within you. All you need to do is unlock that, awaken it, and you'll be in for a roller coaster ride of your life, and that's exactly what we're here to do, is to experience all of that.
Exactly. Yes, it is. And it is a fantastic journey for those who have gone through it, or for those who have helped gone through it. It's quite fantastic for them. So.
Absolutely. So let go, guys. Get out there and take on life as the adventure that it's meant to be. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Moss.
Thank you.
One more time,
Thank you.
Give out that website for our listeners.
Sure. Moss, M-A-S, Sajady, SAJADY.com.
Very good, Moss. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us. We do thank you very much. If you want to discover more, we'll also have a download of the podcast on our website, which is beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We also encourage you to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter so that you can stay up to date with what's going on in the world of Beyond 50, as well as upcoming shows. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well, at Beyond 50 Radio. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 Radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.